You ever think about that? How one single decision, made in just a moment, can completely change everything? Well, today we're diving into a story about exactly that. A painter, his life savings, and one absolutely extraordinary choice.
All right, so let's set the scene. Our story really kicks off with the result of 3 long years of hard work. 3 years of dedication, sacrifice, and being away from home.
And what did he have to show for all that time? 30 gold taels. Now, you gotta understand, this wasn't just pocket change. This was a fortune, the kind of money that could literally pull a family out of poverty. So the stakes? Yeah, they were incredibly high.
Okay, so let's meet our main character. His name is Juna. He's a painter from the ancient kingdom of Gandhara. And after all this time, he's finally heading home, carrying, the entire weight of his family's future on his shoulders.
I mean, for 3 years, Jina had been pouring his heart and soul into his art. And these 30 gold taels, they weren't for him. No. They were the lifeline, the one thing that was supposed to save his family, who'd been struggling in just deep poverty, waiting for him to come back.
But you know how stories go. On his way home, something unexpected happened. Jina stumbled upon an event so rare, so incredibly significant, that it just stopped him dead in his tracks.
What did he find? He came across something called a Panchavarshika. So what is that? Well, it was this massive almsgiving ceremony, a huge gathering for generating spiritual merit. And get this, it was only held once every 5 years. The analogy here is perfect. Think of it like the World Cup of spiritual events. It was that big of a deal.
So, for Jaina, this wasn't just some festival he could watch and walk away from. You see, he looked at his family's suffering, and he had this deep belief that it was all rooted in a lack of good deeds from the past. So when he saw this ceremony, he didn't just see a spectacle. No, he saw a once-in-a-lifetime chance to plant a powerful new seed, a seed that could totally change his family's destiny for generations to come.
So with this conviction just burning inside him, he walks right up to the head monk and asks this incredibly bold question. How much would it cost to sponsor the entire day's ceremony for everyone? And the monk's answer? Wow, it must have hit him like a ton of bricks. The cost was exactly 30 gold taels, the exact amount of money he had in his pocket. So what do you do in a moment like that? Well, Jina made a decision that, some would call absolutely reckless and others might call incredibly profound. He chose to donate every single gold tael he had earned over 3 long, painstaking years. So picture this. Jina arrives home, not with a heavy bag of gold, but with his heart just full of joy. In his mind, he just made the investment of a lifetime. His wife, though, she saw something completely different. After 3 long years of waiting, of struggling, of starving, she sees her husband come back with literally nothing. And her desperation, it just boiled over into pure fury.
Jaina's trying to explain, right? He's telling her, I've secured our future in a place that is indestructible. He's talking about a field of merit. But his wife's reality was so much more immediate. It was, you've thrown away our survival. We are starving right now. So you have these 2 completely opposite views. He saw an eternal investment. She saw their immediate ruin.
Well, as you can imagine, things escalated. This wasn't just a family argument behind closed doors anymore. His wife, feeling totally betrayed, took it public. She gathered their relatives, their neighbors, and even the local official to come and judge her husband for what he'd done, for this seemingly insane choice. So the stage is set, right? It's basically a public trial. The local official, the guy who represents law and order and just plain common sense, demands an explanation. He looks at Jina and asks, why? Why, after 3 years, did you come back with nothing?
In Jina's defense, it was something else. He said, my body is like a flash of lightning. I don't know how long I can live. I saw a chance to plant good fortune, and I took it. Wow. He wasn't thinking about next month's bills. He was thinking about the fragile, fleeting nature of life itself.
And here is where the story takes a turn you just don't see coming. The official, the very person who was supposed to condemn Jina, well, it turns out he was a man of faith himself. He heard Jina's words, and he didn't just hear an excuse. He understood the incredible depth of his conviction. And instead of anger, he was just deeply, deeply moved.
And he didn't just say, wow, that's amazing. No, he was moved to action. He rewarded Jina right then and there. First, he takes off his own fine clothes and gives them to Jina. Then he gives him his personal horse and saddle. And then he does something truly unbelievable. He grants Gina the tax revenue from an entire village. Just like that, his fortune wasn't just restored, it was multiplied in an instant. So what just happened there? Was that just a lucky break? A coincidence? No. The story is a classic example of a really specific spiritual idea. It explains how an act like that could get such an immediate, incredible reward.
The concept is called present life retribution. And the idea is pretty straightforward. It's the principle that while, most of the results of our actions play out in the future, some actions, the ones that are fueled by incredibly powerful faith and really pure intention, they can generate a result right here, right now, in this very lifetime.
And if you look at it, Gina's story is the perfect recipe for this. Step 1, he had this absolutely unshakable faith in what he was doing. Step 2, he took decisive action based on that faith. Step 3, because his faith was just so powerful, the act itself became incredibly potent. And step 4, that potency is what allowed the results to show up almost immediately.
So when you boil it all down, this story isn't just about giving to charity. It's a really profound lesson on value, on risk. Think about it. Jinnah basically reallocated his entire life savings. He moved it from a tangible asset, gold, to an intangible one that he believed offered a much higher, more permanent return. It's just a classic example of how unwavering faith, when you combine it with decisive action, can fundamentally alter your destiny.
And that really brings us to the final thought for today. We live in a world that's obsessed with financial investments, right? But this story asks us to think about our total portfolio. When you look at everything you have, your time, your energy, your money, what's the most valuable investment you could make? Maybe it's one that on the surface seems completely irrational. What does that look like for you?